Senator Dulo, Senator Mandago Jackson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the Equalization Fund allocation bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Equalization Fund, as was set up, was actually meant to bring the areas that were marginalized, Honorable Speaker, to what the Constitution describes as general levels where the whole country is, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even as we look at the current Equalization Fund allocation that we are discussing today, Madam Speaker, one of the key concerns that we should ask ourselves as a Senate is why is it that in the same counties, the same challenges that were there before devolution are still the same challenges we are experiencing in those counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Equalization Fund was meant to address 4 sectors: health, water, roads, and electricity. Of key concern to me, Madam Speaker, is the issues of health and water. In terms of health, Madam Speaker, the Equalization Fund that has been set, and I'm very particular with the counties that have been mentioned, including the county of Senator Dulo, Madam Speaker, is that this money should actually be released and made sure that those facilities that have stood there incomplete for the last 3, 4, 5 years are actually completed with the money that has been allocated. Madam Speaker, Isiolo County is going to receive over 270 million. How I wish that the governor for Isiolo, the man who escaped by a whisker, the scissors of this house, would actually use the opportunity that he has to redeem himself by utilizing this money and completing those hospitals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is also a big concern. When we talk of water in these counties, Madam Speaker, yes, there is scarcity of water. But at the same time, in the rainy seasons, Madam Speaker, you will hear there are floods, roads have been washed away, there is no water. How comes these counties cannot prioritize, even using the equitable share allocation, to make sure they mitigate in these old, long problems these counties have experienced, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the Senator for West Pokot will tell you, in the road connecting West Pokot to Turkana, there are specific places we experience floods we've been experiencing for the last 60 years, Madam Speaker. I don't understand why dams have not been constructed upstream to harvest that water, considering the allocation that those counties have also been given, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, even as we talk about the Equalization Fund, it should not be lost that the equitable share in terms of allocation, these 11 initially marginalized counties were receiving what I would say reasonable allocation, Madam Speaker. And if you look at the allocation for Turkana, you look at the allocation for Mandera, you look at the allocation for Wajir, you look at the allocation for Marsabit, Madam Speaker, you look at the allocation for Isiolo, vis-a-vis the geographical size and other challenges, Madam Speaker, they have received quite substantial amount of funds, Madam Speaker, that if there was a deliberate effort to deploy those resources to mitigate in these all long challenges in those counties, Madam Speaker, today probably we'll be speaking a different language, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also want to call on the National Treasury. And I want to agree, and I think as a House led by the Chair for Finance, Madam Speaker, we need to cause an amendment to the PFM Act. We must separate the Ministry of Finance for national government and the National Treasury that serves the 2 levels of government, Madam Speaker, so that these funds can be released on time, Madam Speaker, to be able to address the 4 key areas that was meant to address. Madam Speaker, I'm happy that Baringo County is going to receive 967 million, Madam Speaker, and I've seen the distribution. Tiati constituency, Madam Speaker, is going to receive 582 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Tiati as a constituent or a sub-county is probably 10 times was in Gishu, Nandi, Trans Nzoia, and Elgeyo Marakwet combined in terms of geographical location. To provide some services in some of those places, Madam Speaker, is quite a challenge. And that's why we would wish that National Treasury would release all these equalization funds on a timely manner so that these regions are able to benefit, services are rendered, and the citizens of those places, Madam Speaker, would be able to access what other Kenyans in other parts are enjoying. Madam Speaker, I wish to implore on our governors from this marginalized region, having visited as a committee for health, Madam Speaker, a number of facilities in those counties, Madam Speaker, that even as we send the equalization funds, Madam Speaker, there is need for the leaders in those counties to actually be concerned about the welfare of their people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it would not be in order to find a facility in that region, a sub-county health facility, or even a county referral facility, Madam Speaker, where women are being asked to carry water as they go to the maternity. Madam Speaker, we are not only discussing areas that are marginalized, even here in Nairobi, and I know the Senator of Nairobi is aware that we visited a number of these, the facilities in this county, and an hospital like Mama Lucy Kibaki, Madam Speaker, is still suffering from a lot of problems in terms of congestion. There is no expansion, and yet if you look at the allocation going to Nairobi County, including their own source revenue, Madam Speaker, they should actually have done better than what we are seeing. I want to call upon the governors in those marginalized counties, particularly the 11 regional marginalized counties, Madam Speaker, that they really have to focus in solving these historical problems that we have had, using both the equalization funds that we are sending and also the equitable share, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would want to ask, particularly the governor for Turkana and West Pokot, where we are experiencing floods that cuts the roads all the time, that if Turkana County, Madam Speaker, with the allocation of close to 13 billion, would just allocate 2 billion per year just to do dams, that would be the highest productive areas of this country. And Madam Speaker, I want to agree with my colleagues who say these marginalized counties are the next frontiers of development, Madam Speaker, because they are well endowed with natural resources, Madam Speaker. Turkana County, Madam Speaker, is where we have oil for this country, Madam Speaker. If you go to Tana River, we have the minerals, we have agriculture, Madam Speaker. If you go to Garissa, Wajir, we have minerals like gypsum and many others, Madam Speaker. As soon as these minerals are exploited, Madam Speaker, it will be a shame for the rest of us who have not, who don't want to support the raising of the living standards of the people in those regions to begin moving to those areas, Madam Speaker, in the name that that is Kenya. We must accept that that region is Kenya now when they need development, and it will remain Kenya when the natural resources in those regions are exploited, Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the country. I therefore want to support, Madam Speaker, and ask the National Treasury to make sure that they release these equalization funds in a timely manner. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwaruma Jones.